Saturday morning. Yeah. So as we sit, as we begin to really open up, we begin to practice. And when we practice, one of the first things that comes to the fore is we notice exactly how much we carry. All the judgments, all the stories, all the ideas, all the beliefs, all of our expectations. Yeah. And we cling to these things hard. We cling to them really hard. So hard that we begin to actually weave them into the narrative of who we think we are. Yeah. These things rise up before us now, and we see them in stark relief because they're no longer hidden by the busyness of our everyday lives. Normally, we just keep ourselves busy or binge watch Netflix when these things come up. But when we sit meditation together with an intention to really show up and see what's here, then we actually, lo and behold, see what's here. Yeah. And we look closely, we see that it's not just that we carry them, yeah, but to a large extent, in grasping them, they become a part of us and they pull us along. We begin to see what we expect to see. And so this practice is a way of seeing our attachments for what they are and maybe beginning to loosen our grasp on them. Yeah. Maybe beginning to realize that we're something a lot bigger than those judgments. So we use a lot of jargon in Buddhism. One of the terms we'll commonly use to express this is karma, conditioned consciousness, the patterns and the habits of mind that keep us cycling through the same experience, manifesting more and more of the same. Yeah. That's why our lives sometimes make us feel like we are trapped. Our judgments take hold of us, and they begin to then shape our world. The tighter we grasp, the more we're bound to repeat the same patterns of behavior. It's quite a conundrum, man. This is where Zen practice comes in. It allows us to actually take a step back and see our conditioning clearly for what it is and begin to let go so we can move towards wisdom instead of staying with our habits. Wisdom is found anytime that we're able to just be present and not understand. Say, not understand. That's crazy talk. Yeah. Understanding is only one way of appreciating what's in front of you. Trying to attach labels, constructs, and ideas and then have them all tie out in some neat mathematical fashion is a great way of keeping things tidy and in compartments in our mind. But it's no way to live our life because we can't actually see what's there. So in Zen, we use koans as a way of moving beyond our discursive thought. The endless thinking, the endless judgments that keep our minds going. Dialectic, on which the small self begins to aggrandize and progress. A koan really isn't a puzzle to solve. It's really more of an invitation to step into our direct experience. The koan does have barbs in them, and those barbs will take our intellect hold, right, and make it go around in loops, trying to solve something that we know at the end of the day can't be solved. Reason can't get you there. In the hopes that eventually we'll grow tired of it and put our intellect down for a second and actually see what's right in front of us, maybe sometimes for the first time. Yeah. So I want to talk to you today about a koan from the Shasekishu. It offers an example of meeting life with an open hand and being ready to release what we're holding on to. Shasekishu is not one of the collections that I actually systematically work in koan study with students. What I love about Shasekishu is that these cases, actually, the payload, the thing that we're asking you to see that's beyond your intellect, is usually buried in very clear sight. So you don't have to dig very hard to see it. And it kind of begins to train you where to look, outside of the realm of your discursive thoughts. And here's a good case. It's the 14th case. They call it Muddy Road. Tanzan and Ekido were once traveling together down a muddy road. A heavy rain was falling. Coming around a bend, they met a lovely girl in a silk kimono and sash, unable to cross at the intersection. "Come on, girl," said Tanzan at once. Lifting her in his arms, he carried her over the mud. Ekido didn't speak again until later that night, when they had reached a temple where they could take lodging. And he couldn't restrain himself anymore. He couldn't handle it. So he said, "We monks don't go near females." Right? Especially not young and lovely ones, for sure. It's dangerous. Why did you do that? "I left the girl there," said Tanzan. "Are you still carrying her?" We can see in the story how easily we often become caught by fixed ideas of right and wrong, and propriety and impropriety. Yeah. Ekido's reaction reflects a sense of morality as something that's rigid, something that's imposed from the outside, a set of rules and some dusty old tome that we can apply no matter what the situation is. But of course, we know that's not our practice. Tanzan showing us a different kind of appreciation of morality. It's not to say that morality is not there. I want to be very clear. There's always right behavior. The problem is, you can't write about it beforehand and then expect to impose your will on the situation. Tanzan acts from compassion, carries the girl to help her, and then lets it go. And this is where the real path lies. Not in rigid constructs, but in an open heart that we can actually begin to respond freely and lovingly to what's in this moment. It's always here. We have to let go of what we're carrying. We have to let go of our judgments, our need to be right, our need to look good, but even our notions of shame and guilt. We study a lot of Dogen here, not because it's the only path, but because it's the one that we have right in front of us. Yeah. And he had a fascicle called Uji that we went through a few months ago. So Uji actually translates to being time. It speaks of the reality or the imperative that's always present in our lives when we don't see our lives as a set of isolated moments, but as an interwoven and continuous, interconnected flow. Each moment and each thought is actually a connection of time itself. And being and time are not two different things. Yeah. Here, past, present, and future are ideas. They're always present when we can actually drop our ideas of them and just be here with our lived experience. Yeah. When we live in this understanding, we see each thought, each action, each feeling as being time. Our memories are there. They're not past, they're very real. Which means that we can actually begin to relate to what we call today past, right here in the present, and in so doing it, transform it. It's a place of alchemy, where we can transform these base elements, or these things that have hurt us, into true gold and wisdom, so we can meet this moment with clarity. Yeah. Dogen warns us that if we get caught to a fixed sense of self, or even feelings of guilt and shame, we become ensnared. And these feelings, our emotions, begin to shape our being time, just as surely as our actions would. It tells us that when we take a false step, we make a mistake. Right? If we see it and we cling to the shame and guilt of having taken a false step, we remain trapped by it. And we have to attempt to carry it forward, but it's a heavy stone that's going to keep us moored in that conceptual idea of past. In other words, we're now separated from the truth of our lived experience as it presents itself now. So we can't allow those things to define us. If we do, we're unable to really show up and gain the full inheritance that this boundless present moment is serving up right now. Ekido's judgment of Tanzan shows us how easily we can become ensnared. On the face of it, he's saying some very sensible things. All those things are sensible if you divorce yourself from the imperative of what's sitting right in front of you. Yeah? He's bound by some idea of right action, and he clings to it. But Tanzan is free. Yeah? He sees what's needed, he responds with compassion and then he lets it go. If we can put down all these things we're clinging to, all these judgments, all these ideas of how life should be, and how propriety should work, then we can begin to meet each moment with fresh eyes and an open heart. This is not a call, I promise you, to abandon your values. It's an invitation to embody them and release the rigidity of our conditioning. Stop carrying your mistakes. Put them down so you have open hands to approach this moment with clarity. This is so critical. This is our entire practice. We continue on this journey this weekend, we're going to remember, or we should remember, that Sesshin offers us a rare and precious opportunity to actually press the reset button, clarify our intentions, free ourselves from what we've been carrying. In the quiet and the simplicity that this retreat container brings, we can actually begin to look at the stories and judgments and attachments and see how they're shaping our behavior. We first see it in our thought behavior, but we know, of course, that manifests. There's no real difference between inside and outside. How you think is how you're going to comport yourself. And if you're constraining yourself and restraining your behavior based on ideas of past shame and guilt, you're never going to be able to reach out and manifest as compassion. You have to do that first within. Release there, and then you're fully available to manifest as the medicine that the world needs. So take this opportunity, don't squander it, to actually take a step back, to see all those things that are holding us back, and to open yourself to the truth of letting them go, recognizing that your judgments and your ideas don't hold you, and that your actions are your true continuance. When we live this way, when we live in a position of wisdom, then we're free to be compassionate. And then we show up fully in each moment. And we're sufficient onto any challenge that confronts us to transform suffering into joy.